on to the latter end of the day, which when I was sort of reading this and when I was asked to do this, I had to keep asking, is this the Dragon's Den bit of the day? But I can assure you it's probably not. But it's called the Startup Showcase. It's where we have people from industry doing incredible things. And to start off this afternoon, we're going to hear from SunScreenIT, and I had a good look through their website today, and it seems like the perfect solution to a really expensive, really impactful type of waste. So if we could have SunScreenIT up here. Thank you.
It's never been more important to recycle and reuse. IT creates more carbon than the airline industry, with millions of litres of water used daily and Earth's precious materials being mined.
Developed nations have been flooding West Africa with electronic waste.
We can take all of the profits from IT asset disposal and plough them into amazing projects like here in Sierra Leone, West Africa.
Here was I using in my day-to-day life a thin client device, and I just had the connecting thought.
We're going to transform the IT industry to avoid carbon, water and raw mining on a grand scale.
I'm here to call out that it's not acceptable anymore to send electronic waste to Africa or any other developing nation.
We're desperately looking for more clients to grow our business so that we can help change thousands more lives.
IT is the gateway to knowledge and opportunities, I feel.
If we have ICT skill, we'll be able to change.
We are so glad and we are happy for what we have done for the school.
So, that's a bit messy, but I'll read it anyway. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever really has. And if you think about that, I love that quote. I start a lot of my meetings with that for clients in the corporate sector or our clients in the NHS, to give them a bit of hope. Because as I heard in the Q&A sessions just now, there can be a lot of doom and gloom, there can be a lot of guilt, there can be a lot of fear. We see the floods, and it's terrible if you watch the news. It's really scary what we're going through. But never doubt that there is a better way, and it doesn't take everyone changing to achieve that. My name's Nathaniel. I'm the founder of SunScreenIT, which consists of a limited business and a charity. We're a group, and both entities exist because of and for each other. But I'm going to tell you the story of where we came from. And really it starts with the realization 15 years ago for me that the IT charity model was completely broken. So I've been working in these dastardly companies like Oracle and Sun Microsystems and these big corporations that are producing millions of billions of dollars worth of computing assets and selling them to banks and building society insurance companies all over the world. And I had the honor of meeting some teachers, because everyone in my family is a teacher, generationally even. I'm the only one who decided I couldn't work with children and I needed to earn a bit of money. So I didn't go into teaching. Sorry if there are teachers in the room, no offense. But I had the great honor of meeting some teachers from West Africa around a dinner table in Somerset. They were visiting as part of a Foreign and Commonwealth Office transfer. And I said to them, what computers do you have in the school? Thinking they would tell me none, and we'd have a whip round, we'd get some laptops, give them those, just take them back on the plane when they went back to Ghana in West Africa. And what they said shocked me. They said, we've got hundreds of PCs. I said, in the school? Yeah, hundreds. Great. Well, who gives, where, how? Oh, charities give them to us. Oh, good, okay. Well, that's great. Yeah, well, how's it going? Well, we stack them up, and we use them as desks or wall dividers, and then we burn them because because none of them work. And here was I was literally, at that time, I had a contract, amongst many other contracts, selling £7 million worth of metal IT servers to HSBC Bank, right? So you imagine how much metal that is. I was thinking, hold on a minute, this was 2008. So we've got a charity model that is actually, if you look into it, for the last 4 decades, been dumping, under the guise of charity, dumping electronic waste into soft target nations. It's not just West Africa, but essentially, we've created the most toxic places on earth. This is Agbog Bloshi, which is just outside Accra, capital city of Ghana. And I heard this, and it just really sparked something in me, and I thought, I've got to do something. And over the last 15 years, I've put together this model, and we're now SunScreenIT Group. We have a limited business which goes and encourages customers, whether they're large retailers, global retailers, or we have a lot of NHS trusts that are coming on board, which is really good news, to think about how they're disposing of IT and their other electronic waste. And to stop shredding it, stop recycling it. We cannot recycle our way out of climate change. Refurb, reuse, and then recycle if we have to. Because there's more precious metal in a ton of computer waste than there is in a ton of the stuff they take out of the ground in the first place. Okay, so what we do is we approach customers. We work with a phenomenal company called Centerprise International, CI Recycling, who do all of our operational recycling up to an MOD standard for data security, because you have to have data security at its core. So we have MOD clients, we have central government clients as well. And we ensure that the data certification is given and all those boxes are ticked around the world. But most importantly then, the fabulous guys at Centerprise donate their margin to us. So it becomes a non-profit, ethical IT asset disposal chain, and we take that profit to the charity. SunScreenIT Foundation is a registered UK charity, and the charity go out and do amazing things like delivering life-changing, sustainable IT education. Because the model was broken, as I said. The charity model as it was before is like saying, right, there's a child with clothing poverty in London, 6-year-old boy with no clothes or very little clothing, and there's a grandmother who's passed away in Birmingham. Okay, well, she's got clothes that aren't needed. There's a 6-year-old boy who needs clothes. Let's send the clothes there. That's as ignorant as some of the worst parts of the IT charity model. That's what we were doing before, and we've created these places where the lung cancer rates are through the roof. And if you look at some of the statistics, they're really scary. 18 million children today exist on these electronic waste dumps, digital dumps, and they're burning the stuff. Lung cancer rates through the roof. They're getting the metal dropping out of the bottom of the fire. They're taking it down to the docks for their daily bread, and it's a hideous thing. They're not learning using the donations, they're burning them, which is really scary. Another thing we've got to think about, when you think about reuse, there was a question, I think a brilliant question from the lady at the back there. How do other developing nations, what can we learn from them? Reduce or reuse, yeah? If we continue to mine the Earth's core as we are today, a bit scary, within the next 30, 40 years, we will be out of copper, platinum, gold, and silver. Okay, think about this, why Elon Musk loves asteroids, but that's another story. We do not want to pull an asteroid into it, no, please God, no, okay? But the great news is there's $65 billion worth of metals already lying dormant in what's called the urban mine. Has anyone heard the phrase urban mine? No? It's that stuff in your cupboard at home, and no, I'm not pointing at anyone, but there might be someone in this room who has a few devices in their cupboard at home. It's estimated to be about $65 billion worth of metal, which is sitting in our cupboards, it's sitting in our businesses, and it's dormant, it's already been mined, all of that horrible carbon weighty process has been done, and it's ready for us to go grab. And that's what we are, one of our campaigns in SunScreenIT is educating and facilitating large companies to reach out to their employees and say, hey, you can bring your stuff into us. We call it the IT amnesty, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But it's not all doom and gloom, and I'll explain how our model works. We have IT asset disposal companies, Centerprise is the lead one, and we have a network of IT asset disposal companies we've signed up in the last 12 months that adhere to the EU, UK standards, regardless of where they're based, because the international laws are so disparate on this. And many global companies really struggle finding IT asset disposal companies that you can trust, that your data isn't on eBay and your stuff isn't in a local river. Okay, and that's in the more remote areas, the worst case. So we collect everything from IT, from mice to mainframe. Everything has a really fastidious focus on security and data up to MOD level. And then the beautiful stuff starts happening. This, and we've been given permission to share, this is the NHS example of Royal Berkshire, who's a fabulous client of ours, and we're very, very grateful to Kate and Joe and Sean and all the other guys there who've chosen us. They were previously shredding their old IT and paying someone to do that. It went into the ground at worst, or it was recycled, but that's a heavy carbon burden. What they do now, instead of paying for it to be practically wasted, they've moved to our model. we refurb and resell as much as possible, which puts that stuff back into the circular economy. And that gets amazing carbon, water, and raw mining savings, which we then report on for their NHS entity. And they go and say, hey, we're now carbon champions, or we've saved millions of litres of water and raw mining has been avoided. So they win. But not only that, it produces money back because we've got items to put back in the circular economy. That's a smaller, but it's certainly a solid revenue stream. So when we resell that, they get some money back and they donate it straight to their own trust's charity. And that's a model we operate for all NHS trusts. And we're so delighted that we've got so many NHS trusts joining all the time now. Our growth in the last year has been absolutely phenomenal, especially with the NHS. And if anyone here is from one of those trusts or ICSs, thank you so much for putting your faith in us. And it's really working well. Then, of course, under the covers, the margin from all of this, it's not huge, but the margin is donated to the charity, and the charity go out and create examples like sustainable IT to the schools in Sierra Leone or Ghana, or a youth project in Leeds that we did last year, or a special needs school in London that we're going to very soon, and we're going back to Ghana next month as well to deliver IT to another 2,000 students. And we're doing it in a sustainable way. And like I said, the IT charity model was broken before. What we do is we've monetized this stream. So we've made sure that there's no IT waste being exported. Then we've taken the money out of it, we've squeezed all the money out, and we deliver the stuff that's right for the school from a content, software, hardware perspective that's sustainable. And then we make sure at the end of a 5-year period, we go and collect that back, or we make sure it's refurbished so we're not adding to the electronic waste problem out in developing or low-income countries and areas. So that's how we've torn up the IT asset disposal industry and the computer charity in one. These are some warriors, Joe Warriors, one of them actually from the charity team and the IT team at Royal Berkshire. This was their first collection, so bear in mind, mark in your minds, November last year, they came on board with us for their first IT collection. You can see it there, they were really excited, they even took a picture. And yes, I am sad, but I love this kind of stuff. We took a picture and said, hey, this is a milestone for you guys. So thank you to them. But what they've achieved, and these are the metrics I want to share with you, what they've achieved through having 5 IT asset disposal collections with us, just nearly 730 kilograms of stuff, nearly 300 items processed. For our own charity, the margin we were able to siphon off under the covers, not that they ever see it, but the margin we get is £2,500. And we know with the charity, we can deliver sustainable IT for £6 per pupil per year. So we get that money funding our sustainable charity model for IT education. And then from an environmental perspective, this is really cool. 43 million litres of water that's been avoided because to make a single laptop takes 190,000 litres of water to make a laptop from scratch. People don't think about water, they think about carbon a lot, right? But the water footprint of IT is huge. And as I said in the video, the carbon footprint's bigger than the aviation industry for IT and tech. We don't often hear about that. Those items back to the circular economy helped save 95 tons, bring out 95 tons of carbon from the IT manufacturing chain. Because if someone is willing to buy a second user laptop, we don't have to make it from scratch. So there's a real metric savings. We know exactly the items, exactly the footprint, and we report on that. It's part of the value we bring to our customers are those laser-focused ESG reports. And then, of course, the funding. So the charity, just from making this switch, bear in mind, Royal Berkshire used to pay £12,000 a year to have someone turn up in a truck and come and shred their stuff. And all they got back was a certificate saying, you're not going to go to jail because your data's safe. Right? That's it. So moving to our model, they've raised over £1,500 for their own charity in the trust. And these are some of the schools that we've impacted in Sierra Leone and Ghana. And it is just the most rewarding thing when you see individuals, Francis, Abdul and Marion. These are people who, it's a tough deck of cards, or a tough hand of cards you're given in a low-income country. Especially this chap has one arm. He's taught himself how to use computing. His employability skills, his life options are 10 to 20 times more. If you're a girl or a lady in a developing nation, your prospects for education are pretty low. You might get educated until 12, 13, then you're told, go home, find a husband, start getting pregnant, that's it. Sorry, we're not going to pay for you. We'll pay for the boy, but that's your lot. These women are amazing. Frances, Marion, they had no IT skills before. They used our lab in Sierra Leone, and now one's working in a bank, the other one's doing an amazing thing. She's running a course for young mothers to help other, build, strong women, building other strong women up. That's the nirvana. That's the goosebump moment for me. It's only 3 out of the thousands of students, but I know that just this tiny chiropractic change in the way businesses are disposing can change millions of lives. We've got a target to change 1.2 million lives before the end of 2025, and we're working with UNICEF and the Sierra Leone government to programmatically roll out our program of sustainable IT, and we believe we're going to do it through those 16 districts in Sierra Leone. So watch this space. It's a big one. What does Royal Berkshire's water saving look like? It looks like 16.5 25-meter swimming pools, because we don't often know what that much water looks like. In 12 months of just making a little change in who takes out the IT trash. And why do we care about carbon? Who's ever seen what a ton of carbon actually looks like? Okay, that's a ton of CO2e next to a London bus, because we love London buses, don't we, in the UK? We love comparing sizes of London buses. Now, why does that matter? Because there's not that much air around our planet. Think about it. When you look at Earth from space, there's this tiny layer of air all the way around. If you balled up all that air into one bubble, it would basically cover Europe. A very tall bubble, but there's not that much air. And if you think about all this carbon, if we all started being more circular with our IT and using this kind of model, we could make a huge impact. The NHS could make a huge impact, massive. So something we do, I mentioned it before, the IT amnesty. Think about all those devices, not just the devices in the businesses and in the healthcare institutions, but those devices at home. This is a model we're working on with the Royal Berkshire NHS. They've got 6,000 staff, and our projection is if they have an amnesty in February or January, they say, right, we're going to bring everything in a week, we'll label it up, we'll make sure it's asset tagged, the data's very secure, we do it in exactly the same way that we do it for the folk in Downing Street or other places I can't mention that we service with a very high security level, right? We think, projections, we can save 600 tons of carbon. This is one hospital staff getting all their stuff, their PlayStations and hopefully some laptops we can resell and not just scrap. 285 million litres of water and 2,700 tons of raw mining. Just from that ripple effect of saying, let's not just collect the hospitals, but let's collect the staff's IT as well. We believe this is the right way to go for IT asset disposal and circularity. And that's it. I'm just so honoured that we get the chance to spread the message. There is a call out for every action we take. Everything we see around us right now will probably turn to waste in the next 5 years. These chairs, 10 years maybe. Yeah. All of us have a choice. All of us have a thought about the consequences. And I'm going to leave you with a guilt trip. Doing nothing is also a choice. But you guys are in this room, so I doubt you're the ones that do nothing. And thank you. And it's an honour to be amongst you. The final thing I'll say. I love this quote. Education is one of the most, or the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And that's why our mission is so important, I think, to close that digital divide, but in the right way. Because if we gave every young child who needed a computer, that is environmental disaster overnight. There are 998 million children who represent the digital divide. If we gave them all a laptop, goodbye planet. If we do it in the right way, with sustainable labs into schools, in centres, in the right places, that's why this is going to work in Sierra Leone. And hopefully we can roll that out to the 17 other countries that UNICEF have identified with us as a pipe dream. So that is it. Never doubt, as I said, that's a better picture, that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Thank you very much. I'd love questions if you have any. Thank you.
That was absolutely fascinating. Anyone got any questions? While you're thinking, I've got one. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Costas, you go first. Everyone's heard my voice far too much.
There was a computer laptop project, £99 or something like that, try and get one out to every child in Africa or something like that. It happened about, 5-6 years ago? What did happen to that?
So there have been a few programs. There was one in Ghana called Laptop for Every Child. Yeah. So necessity drives action. Okay. So to educate a child in a good private school in Ghana, it's $100. Okay. To feed a family costs maybe, well, very basically, to feed a family of $500. If that young child, well, they were given laptops, and we saw it, those laptops were gone within 2 months. Because necessity, if you have a family, if you're a father, you say, this is great, wow, we've been given something we've never had before, we've lived without, we've never needed. And if I keep this laptop, and maybe in 20 years' time, 10 years' time, my child might benefit because they're bringing money in, it's proven not to be the right way. It turns to huge electronic waste problems out there. It turns to trading, stealing. Most of those got sold within the first 2 months. Within 6 months, there wasn't one left. It was called Laptop for Every Child in Ghana. There were other nations in Africa that did it as well. And from an environmental perspective, there are 320 to 360 million computing devices created every year. Right? And as I said before, if we keep making them at that level, we'll exhaust the Earth's crust within about 30, 40 years of those metals. So if you think about it, it has to be a different way. And my way would be suggest second user equipment, but locked down in the schools where they can have proper access, proper education. And it stops that electronic waste problem from getting much worse. So it's a great question. I wish it had worked. But yeah.
So Nathaniel, I've always been told when I deal with the waste managers at work that electronic waste, or waste as they call it, is the most expensive waste to get rid of. Is this a solution that is, how does it work? What do you charge the trusts?
Hopefully it washes its own face, right? If you shred it, it costs money. So Royal Berkshire, and I don't think they mind me saying, they were paying £1,000 a month for someone to turn up in a truck and give them all the certificates and go and shred it, and don't know where it went. Who knows? But it was shredded, so it's recycled, and that's not good. Right, so the best way is to refurbish it. The Centreprice facility is a huge facility in South Wales. They've got the ability to refurb, print new keyboards, new stickers, that kind of thing. It's very simple to make that laptop new software, a reboot, and actually that's a perfectly usable machine, which could have 5 or 8 years life left in it. It might not be the fastest in the world, but it would be perfect for a call center or a youth club, or even some offices, without heavy use needs. And that's the way. So when you sell that, there's money for it. So instead of shredding it at a cost, you refurb and you sell it, that's money back in. Right. So it generally washes its own face because you're getting that revenue stream back in. And that's the circular economy revenue. Yeah. So it's a far better way of doing it than shredding. We should not be shredding this stuff as much as we can.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ishani.
Hi. This is something that's really, really important to me because I buy everything secondhand. So I get all my phones off Kex, and my Mac is off Mac Finder.
Great.
But lots of my friends are getting Fairphones. So I was wondering if you know anything about Fairphones, or whether it would be good to invest in like a Fairphone versus continuing to buy things secondhand. Do you know anything about Fairphones? Yeah,
I mean, Fairphone's a concept. It's similar to Kex, right? I mean, it's a refurbished device, isn't it? As far as I know. We should all be. In fact, the government is it law now, or is it going to be law? It's going through. The government Crown Commercial Services, so the entity that controls the buying of the government, the frameworks have said it should be 20% of spend has to be on second user goods, which is great news, and it's perfectly usable. We're in an IT industry. Imagine the car industry where there wasn't a second-hand car sales part of it. If you had a friend in a pub that was talking to you and said, I'm getting a new car, so I'm going to scrap my 7-year-old Audi, you'd say, what? No, what are you talking about? You sell that. No, I'm just going to get it shredded and scrapped. No, that's where we are with computing. On a huge scale, it's just stupid, But the problem is people are scared of data, and the technology for wiping data has come on a huge amount in the last 10 years. So it really is viable. Fairphone. We also, because we get access, we refurb, we resell the stuff. And if businesses are buying Apple products, for instance, it's 30-40% lower cost. If they're buying other Windows devices, it's a lot cheaper. And yeah, I mean, we did a modeling for a hospital in St George's. We did a cost model. If you buy this much refurbished, you're going to be saving 50% of your IT budget. It's real. It's totally viable now for second user. The phones, everything. Not just phones, laptops, servers, the whole lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Probably got time for one more question. every time I say that.
Did you have one? You said you had one.
I've answered it.
Oh, you have already.
I said,
Sorry.
I said, how much does it cost, Nathaniel?
Oh yes, yeah.
You
There
said
you
it
are.
pays for itself.
That's
But
it.
look, I mean, this is just a brilliant example of better waste management that's doing good outside of sustainability. So fantastic. Congratulations. Keep it going.
One thing I'll ask, if you have an IT team in your business or organization, send them one email, ask them, where does all our stuff go? If they haven't got a good answer, sunscreenit.com. Please. It only takes one voice to make a change. So, little advert there, sorry.
Fantastic. No, you've heard it here.
Thank you very
Fantastic. Thanks, Nathaniel. Okay, so our last but not least, we have the fantastic Greener Journey International, who are going to talk to us about a very important form of waste and a much better way of managing it. Thank you.
Somebody designed this stage that isn't as old as me and doesn't have a metal hip. Hey everybody, my name's Gary Jennings and I'm from the company, the UK arm is called Greener Journey International, and the company is based in Sweden and it's called WoodSafe. Now, you can see there that we're talking about hazardous waste containers, and here's one I made earlier. That'll fall off if I leave it there. Anyway, so within the NHS we have, or within healthcare globally, it's been shown that the top 3 polluters, the most polluting item is gloves, nitrile gloves. The second is plastic aprons. The third is sharps bins, or hazardous waste containers. In the UK, we've got the Royal College of Nursing that will talk about the Bare Hands campaign or the No Gloves campaign to try and reduce the amount of gloves being used. We've got the aprons, which can go into the recycling bin. But what no one has got the solution for, or a solution like this, is the sharps containers. Now, what we have is a slide there which discusses, sorry, I forgot which slide was going to be next, which is really crap when you're standing up here, but there you go. Anyway, you can tell I'm a bit more relaxed. So the NHS, in their greener NHS, in their net zero agenda, has made the statement that they want to actually make these changes. Now, obviously, they're saying until 2030. But it doesn't mean to say we have to wait until 2030 to make this change. They've already started making this change in the Nordics and across Northern Europe. And what we have is, when you look at traditional, on the left, when you look at the traditional sharps bins, basically they're fossil-based. If you've got a virgin plastic one, it's 100% virgin plastic. If you've got an eco bin, they're normally 42% recycled plastic, which means they're still 57% virgin plastic. That's a fossil-based fuel. I always say that plastic is oil in a solid form. I know it's a bit more complicated than that. What we have is a renewable raw material. This is made from 80% wood. The forestry industry, particularly in the Nordics, is really strong. And when they cut down the trees, and we have the sawdust, we gather up the sawdust, and basically we combine it to be able to injection mold it. And a lot of people say, this looks like plastic. Well, it looks like it because it's been injection molded. But I can tell you now, when people come to our stand, the first thing we do is say to them to smell it, and you can smell the forest, because it's wood. So it's renewable, it's sustainable, it's circular. It means that because it's made in the Nordics, in the UK during the 70s and 80s, we'd got a love with North Sea gas and North Sea oil. That's what we focused our energy production on. In the Nordics, they focused on clean energy, clean electricity. So it's made with clean electricity. And what you find is that most sharps bins end up in the incinerator. Now, when they end up in the incinerator and they get burnt, they release the gases that have been built inside them. And that then means that you find that you can, if you look at that one, that then means that with the 80% renewable product that this is made of, we can reduce CO2 emissions by 66%. Now, it's a sustainable, high-strength, high-tensile material. It means that it meets all global criteria. We can actually measure the CO2 saving for each one of these bins used. And I'll show you in a little while how you can do that. And it's plug and play. At the end of the day, it's a sharp bin. So we actually say, well, it's very quick to implement to be able to save CO2 emissions there and then. We have had a life cycle assessment completed. Now, this is done by a third party. It's an independent life cycle assessment. It's one of the only ones that has been done in this industry from cradle to grave. A lot of them are done cradle to gate, which means that it goes through to the front of the hospital and then who knows how you're going to use it. A life cycle assessment is normally broken down into 4 sections. And you can see those listed here all the way to end of life. And this is done to ISO standards. Again, it's one of the few that's actually done to ISO standards. And you can see there that we actually reduce CO2 emissions on a virgin plastic bin by 66%. If you were to do that against a recycled bin, we actually reduce it by 61.7%. So there is a massive saving in CO2 emissions that can be made from changing to a biomaterial. I said to you, you can actually calculate what you're going to save. And this is on the website. And I put a nice big QR code there just in case anybody wants to have a play. But when you look at a lot of the usage within hospitals, the 2 litre, 3 litre size bins are some of the most used, as is the 50 litre. The central sizes are not that highly used. In social care, in domiciliary care, they will normally be looking at a half litre bin that they can fit in their emergency pack or in their bags when they go in and see some of the staff. So we've got the main sizes. We haven't got thousands of sizes. You don't need thousands of sizes at the moment. But if you go onto the website, if you wanted to click that QR code, it'll actually tell you how much you would save in a hospital. Now, very often, the hospitals that I've looked at, and I've said to them, how many sharp spins do you use a year? They're talking about, well, it says there, on here, I don't know whether you can see it, it says if you changed 495 50-litre bins, you'd save 3,800 kilograms of CO2. Now, or reduce. Same thing. Most hospitals that I've looked at with a decent operating theatre use 10 times that amount in a 12-month period. So the amount you can save, and you can actually see that saving, is there, and it's real, and it's verified to ISO standards because we didn't calculate this. Third-party company calculated it for us. We recently had that company then check the CO2 savings for if we shipped a container of these things, of all sizes, to Australia. Because we had a lot of interest. We did the Medica exhibition a couple of weeks ago, and we had interest from 52 countries around the world, about 160 new contacts, and these guys from Australia that are really keen, they had a phone call with us the next week, they were really keen, were saying to us, would it make sense for us to manufacture in Australia? So we thought, well, what does this do? And from that 66% of reduction in CO2 emissions, if you were shipping across to Australia a container of those, we then only lose 5 percentage points based on that distance. So it doesn't actually make sense to set up a production line in Australia because we can still save that much CO2. And plus the fact ships are going to be hydrogen powered and stuff like that, it'll be even more efficient. So what we've got is we've got something that can make an immediate impact on CO2 emissions for something that is used every day of every week in the hospital. Just as an example as well, 3 litre bins. On there it says 5,000 odd bins. That's about the average number that I've seen in the equivalent of about 230 bed hospital. And that is saving over 5,000 kilos of CO2 emissions. It all makes a massive difference. It all adds up. Especially if you recycle your IT. And by the way, my wife's Mac Mini is 14 years old and still works. So she is. I ain't buying a new one. They're too expensive. There's a lot of text on here, but what we've basically got is we've got a material that is a proprietary material of a process for moulding that is very similar to injection moulding, but that is patented. It's designed and made in Sweden. It's been configured in Sweden. It took about 3 months to actually get the idea correct, and then it took about a year to work out how to get the optimum flow rates of the materials and everything, because you imagine injection molding with wood. It's 80% wood. It's not easy, but we've done it. And the biggest thing that the biggest thing, but one of them, you can autoclave it. It's solvent safe. I've got one laboratory company that I know very well. They fill a 12-litre one of these with bovine whole blood because that's what they're testing on. And so they just fill it, they send it away, it gets incinerated. They love it because it's all part of their mission. I stole that. I didn't think of that, Probably the easiest climate action in the world. That's what one of the guys said over in Sweden, and I think it is, because it's plug and play. You don't have to change your SOPs. You handle the waste the same way you always use it, and you handle the stuff that goes in it the same way you always use it. What's not to love? Any questions?
So, have we got any questions?
Thank you. And I had a look at the product earlier. I really do like the product. 2 questions that came up for me. One is that will existing clinical waste suppliers take that product within their supply chain? I'm specifically talking about SRCL. Is there any concern that it's brown and not yellow?
Is that the 2 questions?
That's the first one.
Okay.
The second one is that in terms of comparison against traditional legacy product made of plastic, and I know sometimes we don't like to talk about cost, but what is I'll ask it differently, what is the cost premium against standard product?
That's the first question most people ask me, so thank you for putting it second. So we say right now this is about twice the cost of a standard plastic. Plastic is dirt cheap. It's cheap as chips. And it always will be because it's there, but it won't be there forever. So right now, it's about twice the price. Now, when we when we build volumes, that will change, obviously. Our current molds, we've got about 5 million capacity on the current molds, and we're just starting another production line off in Belgium. So that's going to drop the price further. In regards to the waste, well, the first thing is that the tops are all different colours, so that can be decided whether it's yellow, orange, red, green. I don't know what the green one's for. They made a green one. Purple, blue, etc. So we can change the colour tops, and that's been accepted since the eco bins came in, and it didn't really change what colour the body is. Believe it or not, in Sweden, they like that's the raw material colour. They like that colour that much that they've left the lids that colour, and they call that yellow. Now, I'm a bloke and I'm not good at colours, but I know that is not yellow. So the first thing is we do waste segregation. Will people handle it well? In Wolverhampton NHS Trust, it's one of the six trusts in the UK that has its own incinerator. When we met with those guys and we sat down with their waste managers and the guy that actually runs the incinerator and decides on what temperature it should be and how fast the blade should go around in the bottom of it, he looked at it and he went, no problem. It's not going to change the SOPs of the waste handling either. If that answers all 3 questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? Right, I'll ask one what you think, because we need 3 questions. It's the rules. So, first question: is it made of a waste byproduct? I.e., is it the sawdust that's
yes.
come from? Okay.
We do not grow trees. We do not cut them down. The company that makes the paper is the world's largest paper company called Stora Enso, and they have their own managed forests in Eastern Europe as well as across the Nordics. In fact, it's a Swedish company, and there's more forests now in Sweden than there was 200 years ago. And every time they cut a tree down and they've got the sawdust, they used to fire the sawdust back on the land. And it did nothing, it just stayed there. So somebody had the bright idea of, well, let's gather it up and let's see what we can do with it. So we don't cut trees down. We just gather up the sawdust off the floor.
And say the NHS were to take this all up,
yep.
Dream come true, would you have enough sawdust?
Good question. So the answer to that is going to be yes, because if you go into Canada, they've got massive paper production. They've got loads of sawdust and they don't do anything with it right now, apart from probably make bedding for rabbits and things like that, like we do in the UK. But you know what I mean. So is there enough sawdust? Right now, yes.
Fantastic.
And if we run out of sawdust, I'll be really happy.
Do you have any agreements with hospitals or GPs at the moment?
We don't right now.
Okay.
And the reason is that when these were first launched earlier this year, there was no colour variants. So I required the colour variants to be able to launch into the UK, which were the lids. The colour is a water-based pigment and it's a natural pigment. So they've literally arrived in the UK the week of Medica, so 2.5 weeks ago. We have the agreement, or the provincial, that'll do, agreement to do a pilot at Wolverhampton NHS Trust.
Brilliant.
They have the bins. So we've got about 800 of these to go into the community, particularly for the flu jabs and the COVID jabs. And then we've got the bins of all sizes, up to 50 litres, to go into theatres. And the reason why it's theatres is because they've got 26 theatres. It's a controlled environment and the bins don't go walkies like they would anywhere else, which means then we've got something that's in brackets and measurable. So that's that. But having said that, I've got about 15 different UK distributors and in Ireland saying to me, well, send me some samples, which I've done. And we're really interested in seeing how they go in. I've also got a few of the big companies that sell into the NHS that are saying, well, can we talk about rounding out our offering, because they can say do reusable systems, but they can't do the smaller and the larger systems, which then do go to incineration. So we're looking at it from a collective perspective. It's not that, oh no, I'm not going to sell to you guys, you're my competitor, because it's actually for the benefit of all of us from a CO2 saving. So I'm not precious about that.
Of course. And obviously that's not my priority cost, but how did you sell that to Wolverhampton at double the cost? Like, how did you encourage them to start using this product?
It's really interesting because the head of sustainability there, Janet. Everybody goes, Janet, yeah, we all know Janet. But she's actually very, very keen and very, very, I'm going to say the word pushy, but I don't mean that in a negative sense. She's focused and vocal. Yeah, but the thing is, they're one of the first NHS trusts that's introduced the asthma inhaler recycle scheme. And that has proven to work. Yes, there's been a cost. And what she said to me was, what's the cost? And I sent her the price. She said, that's about double what I'm paying now. And I said, yeah, I know, but I can't change that. So she said, but over time, will we get savings based on volume? And as our production goes up, our production costs will go down and that will be passed on. And she said, well, if I can say that and I can demonstrate this CO2 reduction. The third thing is, and I haven't got figures for this, but a lot of the incinerators are burning so much plastic post-COVID that their output gases are a little bit on the threshold of being on the wrong side of legal. And particularly where the NHS have their own incinerators, even though they turn that energy back into heat and back into electricity, there aren't enough scrubbers in the world to be able to scrub all the gases that are coming out of the incinerators. So what we're basically doing is we are saying, well, there is a solution here. We know it's going to be more expensive. On our stand, my colleague, Klaas, is Swedish, and he and I have worked together for many years on different projects. He said this morning, and it's just one of those things, he said, it's like electric cars. Nobody could afford one to begin with, but now every third car is an electric one, and that's because the price has come down as more use has gone up. That's the way I'm going to square that circle.
Somebody's got to start it.
Indeed, yes.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
That's been absolutely fantastic.
Stand there for one, by the way.
I can just comment as a Swedish person that there's a sustainability also in your supplier, because Stora Enso is, I think, the world's oldest corporation. It's from 1288.
Indeed.
Wow.
Well, it's funny you should say that. But I am right in the fact there's more forests in Sweden now than there was 200 years ago.
That is correct. However, it is planted,
Yes.
not the wild forest.
Yes, but it's sustainable. Yeah, exactly. Taking out the CO2 even more. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So that concludes the Net Zero Health Show of today. And thank you so much for your stamina and sustainability managing to make it through the entirety of the day. Had some really, really incredible lessons today. I hope I the crap out of you all this morning with the opening lecture. For those of you that weren't here, this one? Shall I use this one? Yeah, it was basically telling you exactly what the real state of play is at the moment and how we basically have a window which is closing very rapidly in which to do anything. So what I said to everyone that was here earlier, 3 things that you need to do, 4 things you need to do. Change your bank accounts. Bank.green, type it in on your way out. Look and see what your bank account is doing from a fossil fuel investment perspective. Shift. Renewable energy. Such an easy, cost-effective thing to do at home. We can all do it. Just shift to ecotricity, 100 green, Octopus, 100% renewable energy providers. Just do it without thinking. It's not going to cost more money, and it's going to have a big impact, and it's going to send a big message. And then thirdly, look at your diet. I've just learned so much from that incredible talk. There is so much that we can just do from now. This doesn't require innovation. It's just things that we can actively do right away. Guys, the window is closing. The time to act is now. You guys are all incredible because you're here wanting to do something about it. But let's keep on doing that and be on the right side of history. So thanks for being here today. Take care.